And we're live. All right. Well, we're not live. We're recording, but okay, so let's get this started. First of all, tell me a little bit about yourselves, where you're located, where you're coming from, what your business is, where you want it to go. Just give me a bit of background so that I can kind of have an idea of what we're going to be talking about here.
All right. You start presenting yourself?
So my name is Giuliano. I'm Arnaud's cousin, and we're trying to build some brands together. And we recently started with this jewelry concept. So that's what we're doing right now. I'm also busy in the virtual reality sector myself. So renting out to companies, this racing simulators and stuff like that. Okay. And we're doing parallel projects, so to say. And we're here in Belgium, in a nice medieval city right now.
Yeah, I'm in Lisbon, so not too far away.
You get the feeling. All right. So my name is Arnaud. I am in law school at this very moment, but we started a blockchain project together, my cousin and I.
Oh yeah, that as well.
And from that point on, actually, we felt like entrepreneurship was really something that we wanted to do with the future of our lives, and we thought it'd be cool to share this project together. And since then, we've started actually many projects. So right now, I guess most of them are in the beginning phase. Our current most busy project, I think, are the jewelry. So we make customizable rings for men.
Okay. What kind of customizable rings are you making for men?
So we have like one order that we just delivered. So it's like we just make easy design. Yeah, it's hard to see with the light.
Yeah, I think I saw the rendering of it before you actually had it made.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So it's just with we try to make some nice, clean, very detailed designs, and people can put their initials on it.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. Okay, one is, how did you go from blockchain to jewelry, and what was the first one?
The first one for him was the virtual reality.
Which is an effective business right now. Like, it's a service-based business where you hold on to assets and then you're leasing and renting them out, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool.
And for people, events and stuff like that.
Cool. And then the blockchain was kind of like you're dipping your toe in the pool and just seeing what it's like to build something.
Well, yeah, we had like interest in we started investing in Bitcoin and all kinds of cryptocurrencies like 2 years ago. Then there was this big boom, this big bull run, and at that point we were like, there's this huge open market, and we had some contacts. We had a friend that was really into blockchain technology, and we saw that there was like one problem that we could tackle. But it was like a huge project, and we started with that. And because
was that a profitable venture?
We actually it took very long because it was quite a revolutionary idea, to be honest, and it took very, very long to build a solid proof of concept that. At this point, the proof of concept, because we started, I think, 2.5 years ago, something like that.
No, less long. I think it was one year and a half.
It's actually like, so it's quite new in terms of our business.
Yeah.
But our proof of concept right now is running. We are testing and we are debugging everything as we speak. So we have no clue whether or not it will be profitable. So it's more
you're still in the build phase on that.
We're seeking investment phase and see where this business model can go. At this stage, that is the blockchain project.
Okay, fair enough. And then my next question is, why jewelry, and what's the goal with the jewelry? Like, I mean, is it just money? Is it, like, do you want to create residual income? Do you want to have a brand where you're like the face of it, where you're going all over the world? Like, do you want to, like, I don't know, give me some ideas of what is your vision with this jewelry company?
I think for us the one of the big things that actually was quite changing in our lives was getting acquainted with Founder magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And from there on, we took the Start and Scale course, and we really wanted to try something of our own, and not per se as make like a lot of money, but we wanted some kind of passive income and have the experience along the way. Like, let's start building like, not to say a random product, but like we start a product, build everything around it, just start just with the two of us, and let's see if we can somehow make this a good profitable venture for ourselves, and tell ourselves that we have experience in entrepreneurship and know how it's done. And I think for future projects that we start, we have had a bunch of knowledge and experience that we just
For me, the project is also, let's say, my goal is to get some sort of freedom out of it, in a sense, like financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That could also let me scale my business. And so I have now an employee that is working on both projects, like the virtual reality part and the jewelry part. Since in the virtual reality rental business, there are sometimes a week or 2 weeks that there's no, let's say that there are no clients.
Mm-hmm.
that can happen. So I can fill like a gap to work on another project without
So when you say financial freedom,
yes,
right, what does that actually mean to you?
What does it mean? It means that I do not have to worry. My goal would be that I can like work, like that I can travel and work on this e-commerce.
Okay, so there's I'll just explain to you it's been referred to as the modern slavery of capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's 3 chains. All right, there's time, there's location, and there's money. Right.
Yeah.
So what the typical, let's call it that modern version of capital slavery is that you have to wake up at a certain time, to go to a certain place, to do a certain thing, to make money so that you can pay for that place that you're living in, so that you can go and you can wake up in that certain place at a certain time and go to the place. And like those are the 3 chains that hold you in place, right? So when you look at, like me, for example, I'm location independent. I've removed one of the chains, right? Mm-hmm. So what that means is where there's internet, there's work. There's an opportunity for me to do calls like this with entrepreneurs like you, right? Mm-hmm. And when we get to the next step, which is having other people be able to do these leverage calls, and then the step after that, which is have a service that is geared towards helping people gain leverage on a daily basis, then I'm going to be able to remove myself from that direct time-money relationship, right? Yeah. And then the finances and, the finances, I'm fine. Right, like I have enough money. I don't have to worry about. But what I do have to do is dedicate my time to my money, right? So once I remove those final 2 chains, then I can live anywhere, be anywhere, and do anything.
All right, amazing.
Right. So that is for what I would consider true freedom, right?
Actually, yeah.
Now there's another one which is called financial escape velocity. Okay. So you've heard of the term escape velocity on rockets, how they have to, like, when they're going out to space, they have to get fast enough to break away from the gravity of Earth?
Yeah.
Yeah. So financial escape velocity is where you have enough money coming in that it covers all of your expenses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Okay. And that you live, they say that being rich isn't about, what how much you make, it's about how much you have left afterwards. right? So it's what you keep. And in that case, it's like determining what your level of life is going to be financially, and being able to set yourself some milestones. You know, maybe you want to have a few toys, maybe you want to be a real estate investor, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to live a truly, a life where if you want a car, you go rent a car. If you want to, go on a racetrack, you rent a Ferrari for the day. If you want to live in Monaco, you get an apartment on Airbnb. If you want, right? I mean, there's a new economy that's emerging where it's like you don't actually have to own anything. You just have to know that you have enough money to do the things that you want to do, right? Versus the typical, oh, I need 250 grand for a Lambo, right? Like, okay, maybe you want to drive, maybe you want to be driven around in a black car, and that's going to cost you 500 euros a month, right? And then the days you want to drive a Lamborghini, you go and rent one for $1,000, and it ends up being a hell of a lot cheaper, right? So knowing what you want financially is a key part of this entire thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what that allows you to do is make the decisions that you're going to have to make inside of your business to be able to, achieve those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I think.
No, yes.
So tell me now, let's talk about moving forward a year. Okay, so imagine there's a big red button that you can push, and you go fast forward 365 days, right?
Yeah.
Everything's gone really well. What are you doing with your 24 hours a day? What does your day look like? What does your business look like? Who's involved in it? Who are you talking to on the phone, meeting in person? Are you commuting? Are you sleeping in? Are you on a beach somewhere? Do you just check your email and then go kite surfing? I want you both to answer that question for me now.
All right.
Okay?
I think for me, it would be I would be some kind of overseeing manager of different brands. Maybe a year is too soon for that, but let's say everything is going extremely well. Then I would have managers in place for all of my brands, and I would just go over. I come in at the office, and I would look at their issues and how everything is going with each single brand, and then I would move on. I am not the type of person that wants to lie 24/7 at a beach somewhere in some Caribbean country. But for me, it is that kind of overseeing management position that I think would be my goal in the next.
So I'm just going to do a little bit of language adjustment here and say that you have managers, you are a director.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would be, now, these brands, let's call them, how many, actually? How many brands would you like to have, and in what phases would you like to have them in? Because then we have to find out if you're in agreement as to where you both want to be, right?
Yeah.
Because if you guys have different paths, then you're going to have that conversation. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, how many brands? What's the, are you going deep on e-commerce? Are you getting into SaaS? Are you doing are you launching apps? Like where, do you want to dip your toe in each one and just so that you can have like a breadth of knowledge, or do you want to go? There's a saying where you can go a mile wide and an inch deep, or you can go an inch wide and a mile deep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you were to do e-commerce after e-commerce, Greta is a great example of an inch wide and a mile deep, right? She has gone hard on e-commerce and she's done a fantastic job of it, right? So what's your vision?
For me, I think at around 7 to 8 different brands. I think that is the thing where I'm going at.
Okay. Now let me just put a little caveat in here. When you say brand, does this mean a product line for each brand, or does this mean that each, your single product brands?
Yes, so single product brands. For instance, one brand would be the jewelry for men. and then another would be some kind of blockchain consultancy, for instance. So then we are a mile wide and only an inch deep. So for me, that's it, because I'm interested in a lot of different types of commerce. So I'm very curious about everything that that can happen from your computer. Consulting in blockchain is completely different from an e-commerce store, but I'm curious exploring both paths. So I think for me it's very different brands, really, very different stores, and I think at around 8 different, and I would love for one or two to be at a very well-known stage, and then the others like very early to mid in the timeline.
Okay, now your turn.
Yeah, so it's almost the same, but I want to be more location independent. I think that's more important to me than for Arnaud.
Yeah.
He also still needs to finish his studies, so he's kind of bound to this location. But it would be the same kind of director role that I wish to achieve. With brand, maybe not that diverse, like say 8 brands, but more focusing on 4, and being able to put more focus on them than going full on like scattering between 8 different brands. So that would be more my vision.
Okay, cool. So there's a divergence in a couple of areas there, right?
Yeah.
One is that you're probably not going to launch each of your brands together.
Nope. And we know that.
Yeah.
And the other one is that you're not going to be in the same place, right? So if we talk about the jewelry brand as being the brand that you run together, and the blockchain project that you have that could potentially pivot into a blockchain consultancy being run together, those are the ones that you'll be focusing on together, right?
Yeah.
Now, so I'm going to just kind of tell you a little story that I had the privilege of learning when I lived in Mexico. I lived there for about 13 years, and while I was there, I became friends with one of the top business radio personalities in the city I was living in. And I was interviewed for business that I had there, and we started going out for breakfast every morning. And he actually turned out to be the personal letter writer for Carlos Slim. You know who Carlos Slim is?
I don't.
Okay, so Carlos Slim at one point was richer than Bill Gates and Warren Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he is the owner of the largest telecommunications firm. He's the owner of the largest of highways. He's the owner of I think he bought the New York Times. He owns a ridiculous number of businesses, right? He is, more so than a lot of people will look to people like Elon. Well, Elon Musk is the type of serial entrepreneur that you would generally look at, right? Because he'll start from nothing, and then and then have another idea and start that from nothing, and then have another idea and then start that from nothing, right? That is, that's a really interesting archetype, and if you have a chance to read his autobiography, there's a lot of fascinating lessons in there, and we can go into those afterwards. But Carlos Slim is somebody who has managed to find more leverage than almost anybody on the planet. Okay, this guy, he has. When I was talking to the gentleman in Mexico, the who wrote his letters, he was currently running 150 businesses at a time. Right? Now, what does it look like for a person to run 150 businesses? What is in their mind, and most importantly, what is in their time, right? What does their time look like? So the most important thing that I learned from this, from this talk, was the fact that his time is a series of meetings with leaders, right? He hires people that are smarter than him in each area. and then he, there's the saying that if you hire someone smart enough, they'll tell you what to do, not the other way around.
Yeah, but yeah.
So this is what he does, and he has 15-minute meetings from morning until night, where he sits down with his leaders, and they bring to him the decisions that he has to make, what their recommendations are. And they go through that, then he sets out the mandate for the next milestone, and then it's on to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Right? So, that being said, I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of people work for directly Carlos Slim. Right, like they are employees of his. He built out the internet and cell phone infrastructure in Mexico. He built out the highway infrastructure in Mexico. He did it, and yes, he had some advantages. He was the accountant of the president at one point. He was there when nationalization, when they denationalized all of the major. The water and the highways and all of the phone services and all that in Mexico. He had some advantages, but you can be given all of the advantages in the world and still fall on your fucking face, right?
True.
So when I look at people who want to be serial entrepreneurs, the people who want to run multiple projects, the key to being able to run multiple projects is not micromanagement, it's in leadership empowerment.
Exactly.
Right? So when it's Arnaud and what's your name again?
Giuliano.
Okay, Giuliano. So Giuliano wants to have more e-commerce, right? He wants to have more of the, more brands in the e-commerce space, whereas Arnaud, you want to go a mile wide and an inch deep. So what I would, if I were in your position, Arnaud, what I would be doing is I would be asking Julien to become the de facto leader of the e-commerce space, right?
And
so
actually, exactly what we're doing right now.
Okay, good. So you're on a good track, right? Because then what happens is he becomes responsible for understanding, what makes a great brand. He understands the latest and greatest in terms of Facebook marketing, in terms of Instagram, in terms of how can you profit off of Snapchats? Is TikTok something that you guys should be approaching right now, right? There's you get to understand the platforms, you get to really dig deep into how you can create influencer relationships, and you get to build that brand equity using the jewelry company as your muse, as your initial model, right? And then you get to take all of those lessons into the second and the third and the fourth one, and that's now on the other side there's manufacturing, there's distribution, there's and if you if you want to get into blockchain consulting, right? That has almost nothing to do with e-commerce, right? There's not a whole lot of there are some, okay, and I'll just give you a couple of examples, which is the idea that the communicating with influencers, right?
Yeah.
That's one key skill that if you can leverage the power of other people's influence for your own good and for your own advancement in the jewelry company, hell, in the VR company, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the blockchain consulting, right? In the blockchain world, there's a few people that have gained respect, and one of them is his name is Pomp, right? His name is Anthony Pompliano, and he's you know him?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was following that guy when he was a regular venture capitalist, okay? And I've seen him with what he's done to become the voice of a mission, right? So he has become the influencer, which is very different than using influencers, right? Now you can combine those two things, like on Wednesday, I believe he's going to have a podcast with John McAfee, who's a fucking nutball, but he's all...
we know.
But that is compounding on the fact that he already has the the marketplace influence to be able to bring in somebody to have a conversation of that level, right? Yeah. So, Joe Rogan didn't get Elon Musk on his podcast on episode number 2. It was like episode number 1200, right? So if we talk about your paths forward, right, then where, we'll get right into how we can grow your current one, okay? But I just want you guys to be kind of clear on where your paths are going to diverge and where the responsibilities are going to be properly divided. Because if you don't have that clear, and this is a project that you guys should sit down on and literally write down all of the shit you have to do, right?
Yeah.
And who makes the decisions, and when there is a disagreement, who makes the final decision. Okay? Yeah. And in this case, for the e-commerce brand, if Julien wants to really go with e-commerce, that should be Julien.
Yeah.
Okay? Do you guys agree?
Yeah, we agree.
Okay, cool. So we're on that page. Now, let's bring this into some distinct numbers, and we're going to spend a lot of time right now talking about the jewelry brand, because that's the one that you're in right now. But you're going to get a recording of this. You're going to be able to go back to it and probably take a bunch of these lessons for the next time that you launch. Okay?
Yeah.
So tell me about where you're at in the jewelry business. Where, what is the plan that you currently have? How much does it cost? Who are you selling it to? Why do I fucking care? That's like, make me care about your jewelry brand.
I mean, take it away.
So we launched like a month ago on 1 March. We had like pretty solid launch, to be honest. Like we had some scarcity or urgency elements that we said that we will only open for the first 3 days of that launch, and it went well. But when we now reopened the store, like 2 weeks later, we fell like in a, let's say,
we took a steep dive.
Yeah, let's say it like that.
How were sales in the first session?
First session we had 2,000 euros in sales.
Yeah, 2,200 euros in sales. In the first
how many units is that?
11.
11.
Okay.
Yeah, in 3 days. And then right now, I think since launch we have sold one or something like that. Only one, I think. We have some interesting offers that came at this point that we're pursuing this path. We're talking with some very, very well-known brands. One is in music industry and one is in fashion. Very well-known brands. They contacted us to see if there was some kind of possibility for us to work together. But in direct sales to regular customers, it took a really steep dive.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll just put it to you simply. If you're selling 100,000 units through a store and 0 on your website, the fuck do you care? Right? I mean, there's the idea of like, I have this vision and it has to be so clear and we have, and then you become almost like channel religious, right? Where it's like, this channel is the path and it is the light and it is the everything. Meanwhile, Wiz Khalifa's in your ear going, yo, can I buy some of these, my boys? And you're like, no, man, we got to sell them online, right? The thing is that when a door opens to you, it's definitely worth pursuing. And if you find that you have the opportunity to have 1,000 sales, by going through and having a few conversations and a few handshakes, then, what does it tell you in terms of your leverage, which is you can put a little bit of effort here and get a lot of results, or you can put a lot of effort here and get very few results, right? It doesn't mean that you have to stop selling online, right? It just means that you're going to want to rework your strategy based on where you're getting results, right? So tell me about the opportunities that have come up to you right now. What do those look like? What is that?
So I've had this idea to like, we can customize our rings with the initials of people, but we can also customize them with like their logo. It's possible. It's not so much different. That's so to say.
Yeah, it's just a stamp. Do you have a minimum order quantity if you do a run on one?
No, so we have like a 3D printing company that makes the molds and then fills them up, and its minimum order quantity is 1.
Cool.
So we can do like a personalized ring for one person. Of course, the prices would be higher for the end consumer.
Yeah,
that's normal, I think. And then the opportunities was like a big DJ brand with like top which has several artists in the top 100 DJ sphere that are like, hey, can you make this ring with our logo? We send them some designs with their logo, and they really digged it. They now have to take it internally and discuss it. But it would be for their top artists to have like a custom branded jewelry ring, so to say.
So I'm just gonna jump in here. There's one of the biggest companies in the world that hands off their brand to other people to make shit for them is Disney, right?
Yeah.
Licensing for Disney is huge. So you can go to Disney and you can be like, yo, can I have a Mickey Mouse license for these rings? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna charge you $30 a ring. Okay, cool. Sell for $250, right? There, if you're getting, there's the idea of the initial, which is kind of cool, right? There's the idea that what's his Stone Malone, or what's that guy's name? Whatever his name is.
Post Malone.
Post Malone, yeah. You can have like a POST, right, like that, and you could be selling the 4-ring combo, right? And he could have that on his e-commerce store, and you're the back-end supplier. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you doing this to get the experience of doing business and learning about business, or are you doing this so that you can have a brand? Right? Those are two very different paths.
Yeah, I think we started off as the first, but given the opportunities that presented themselves right now, I think, at least for my part, I would be a lot more interested in pursuing the second for this. So
like building a brand.
Yeah.
So that brand is, is that brand clear when you put someone else's brand on your brand? Which is what I'm saying, right? Like if you get an order of 1,000 rings for this DJ company, right? For I don't know, Ministry of Sound or whatever the hell it is, right? If you can get Ministry of Sound rings, is your brand even going to be on there? Are they going to know where they came from? Does it matter?
But yeah.
At the moment, the design that we send them was without our own brand, but we had, of course, our own. Like, it's the same base as all our other rings. So the sides of the ring is still original from our initial rings.
Okay, so here's a potential path forward on this. All right. So potential path forward is like, let's just say you have, let's bring this up to the camera here, right? Like you've got your own little stamp right here, right?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like the Nike symbol, right?
Yeah.
And they've got their branding here. And the only caveat that you're going to sell them rings is that they're also available on your site.
Yeah.
Right? So if you say, look, I'm willing to do a collaboration with you, you can sell them wherever the hell you want, but we're also going to, we'll set our prices. We'll have the same prices. I'm never going to undercut you, but I want to have them for sale on my site as well. Right? At that point, you guys have a ridiculous opportunity to go on a collaboration bender. Right? Yep. You guys can go collaboration after collaboration after collaboration, where it's like, you start talking to individual artists, and maybe National Geographic wants one, and maybe there's a commemorative one for this, and maybe right? I mean, there is opportunity for you guys to, do and maybe your website sells like, I don't know, 15% of the rings or 10% of the rings, but it looks fucking dope because it's got this one and that one and this one, and your Instagram is on fire, right? And then all of a sudden, like, the Kardashians are calling you saying like, yo, can we do our own line? Right? And that's, that's how you could potentially make this thing pop, right? Where if you are searching for the right collaborations that allow you that fit inside of what your brand mission is, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you don't go for Disney, right? Maybe you go a little dirty. Maybe you go, you want, maybe you don't go metal, you go electronic, right? Maybe you go, I don't know, like, figure out what the limitations of your brand are, right? Who is actually going to wear these rings, right? You're probably not going to do it for, like, I don't know, Bob Dylan fans or, like, vegan hippies, right? That's not who you're going for, right?
Yeah.
But you could potentially have, if you're talking like artists and other brands, there's opportunities there, man. And the only caveat is that they're all branded as your thing, right? Like, Manchester United has a jersey that has a Nike symbol on it. Think about it from that perspective. And,
Exactly.
does that make sense, like, as a path forward to you guys?
Yeah, a lot of sense. Yeah, a lot of sense. Yeah.
So we should look at artists or brands that fit our image, like, and our image would be like a young, dynamic, brands our slogan is diverge yourself, so stand out from the crowd. So we need to look for all those collaborations that would fit within our own image that we'd like to create.
That's it, man. That's it. I mean, if you can get The Rock to to have his bull on a ring, right? These are the types of things where it's like, but dude, it's gotta be that, like, you've got that little symbol on there so they know it's authentic, so they know it's an authentic you, right?
Yeah.
Is there some sort of I know that the diamond mine, I think it's called Katimovic in far north Canada, they do laser etching, laser etching on their diamonds, right? And that's like a way that that it's like from that mine, right? What's a way, what are the things that you can do to make sure that they know it's from you, right?
Yeah.
And that's, it's a cool business, man. And I like the idea of, so with that in mind, you're going to have who's the collab person and who's the e-commerce and, the commerce business person, right?
Yeah.
So who's the one going out and searching and having the meetings and, making the connections and building up their profile? And I'm going to just put this out there and say that the person who wants to consult for blockchain needs to have a public image, right?
Yeah.
Needs to have a face to the world that you could potentially leverage your, you being the face to large brands and to artists and things like that, gives you practice in having a public face so that you can start to have a voice that's congruent with the message of the next project, right? And Julianne having the, I want to work from anywhere, so I need to build myself up a fucking kick-ass distributed team, right? Then you're the one who is doing the deals with the factories, and you're the one who's making sure that the graphic designers have their shit together, and you're the one who's making sure that your interns are responding on Instagram, and you're the one, right? You're the one who's making sure that the guts of the business run, while Arnaud is going out to the world and being, how can I put it? The LeBron James, I think, is the basketball player most known for it. Where I think he's called Black Mamba when he's on the field or when he's on the court, and that's him, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So what that means is when he's off the court, he's a really nice guy, right? He's super friendly, and but like when he goes into game mode, when he goes into his public personality, right? That's one of the things that most artists have, is they have a public persona, where they will put on a public persona to go out into, facing the media and all of these types of things, that, you have like a division between the two, where you get to kind of like be yourself if you're a little bit introverted. Like someone like Madonna is introverted, right? It's crazy, but some of the biggest rock stars on the planet are actually introverts. And they just know that when it's game time, this is the personality that they have to have in order to be successful at what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if you're going to go out and be that public-facing person, you need to take some time to set out what your personal brand guidelines are.
All right.
What are the things you say? What are the things you don't say? Right? How do you ensure authenticity? And how do you create confidence in others? And right, there's a bunch to it, and you're gonna want to like look at that backstory on some other artists and some other, potentially interview and have a chance to talk about like, how did you go to being a public? What's changed about your public persona versus your private persona, and really dig deep on that, because there will probably be a difference, right?
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
and then, Julian as the operator, well then you become that, let's say the detail-oriented person, right? Mm-hmm. Where and you're the person who is, there's a really great book called Remote Office Not Required, okay? And what it talks about is the guys who created the software Basecamp, which is like a project management software. They wrote the book on how to have a distributed workforce. And a distributed workforce means you don't actually have to have an office, okay? You have people all over the world that are doing things, okay? Mm-hmm. So, Julian, you want to have a distributed workforce because you want to be able to do your work from China or from Thailand or from the coast of Australia or from wherever the hell you want to be, as long as you can put the work in, right? I do my work I do about half my work from an office or in my, in my apartment in Lisbon, and then the other half on my phone sitting on patios and drinking coffee and beer. Right, that's like, and then I'll just turn my phone off when I'm taking when I decide that it's time to take some days off. I just turn everything off and don't respond to anybody. But I've set my life up so that I can also disconnect. Right, I can completely disconnect from my life for multiple days, and after about 4 days, the first person to get concerned about me is my mom. Right, that's like. So you're going to want to set your life up as a distributed, as a distributed workforce leader. Okay? And that means that you're going to be dealing with time zones, and you're going to be dealing with milestones, and you're going to have to do things like use Basecamp or use Slack or use Trello to be able to control your team for its effectiveness, right? And Arnaud, you're going to be more of the, on Instagram, finding opportunities, making calls, having coffees, right? You may have to be the person who is, if you're looking for those types of opportunities, making the weekend trip to London so that you can meet with X person, right? They're two different experiences.
Yeah.
They're two different pathways. I just want you guys, is this making sense to you?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. I think if we like a casual conversation over beer, I think that we envisioned our lives going into that
those
direction.
Yeah. We already had those fundamentals not clearly outlined like we're doing right now, but it was already there in place.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of our personality. For instance, Giuliano, he studied game design, for instance, while I'm in law school and I'm doing MUNs for the speeching and things like that. So we are two complementary characters on these fields, and I think that exactly those different paths is what is laying ahead of us, indeed. Yeah. But having it clearly outlined is very, very good.
Well, good. Look, there's there's a few relationships in history that have been ridiculously influential, where it's like they've grown together, right? Walt and Roy Disney
Yeah.
is one example. And so Walt Disney was the ultimate creative, and he was always out there, and he was always talking. And Roy Disney made sure he didn't go bankrupt, because when Roy Disney wasn't there, he went bankrupt like twice, right? And he almost like Roy had to like step in and take and actually like push the brakes and be like, no, man, we cannot do these things right now. Go get this shit done. And he reeled in the creativity, which allowed Walt Disney to become Walt Disney, right? Charlie Munger is the operator, whereas Warren Buffett is the leader, right?
Yeah.
So there are, and if you look, there's actually, what is it? Give me a second. I'm going to just try and find the name of the podcast. I know it's on Self-Made Man. Did you guys ever listen to that podcast?
No,
Actually,
not that one.
no.
You guys have to listen to that podcast. It is insanely good.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's like, okay, hold on a second. Find co-founder. Oh, you, God. Okay. Shit. I'll tell you what. I'll send you the link after. But this guy wrote the book on what it takes to, the importance of having an operator and a leader, and I think it's gonna fit you guys to a T, because it's just like and he's got a book on it, and so you guys can read through that book and basically figure out what your roles are. And I think that you're both smart guys, right? It's obvious you're both intelligent people. I mean, the key is that with division of labor and division of responsibilities, that you focus on letting each other shine.
Yeah.
Right? That when you see the load is too heavy for the person who's not good with numbers, that's stuck in an Excel sheet, that you say, look, I'm better at that, and I've got a guy who can do it, let me take it off your shoulders. That you have honest conversations about where you're struggling, that you have, these are the things that are going to, and if it comes to a point where you have, where you're both holding on to something that kind of sucks and isn't doing you any good, and it's not effective, and it's causing stress and all that kind of stuff, well, look how you can outsource it, automate it, or delete it, right? It's one of the three, right? Either automate it, outsource it, or delete it, because you're gonna have to, if you want to run the number of businesses that you want to run, you're going to have to understand the difference between being efficient and being effective. Okay? Do you know the difference between being efficient and being effective?
Efficient is time-wise, and effective is result-wise.
Kind of. So I can efficiently clean out my email box. Right? I can do that, and I can just go through it and get them all done, and I can do it really fast, and I can figure out a system, and I can spend time figuring out a system to how to clean out my inbox, or I can make a phone call that'll make me $1 million. Right? One of them is efficient, the other one is effective. Right? And if I have the capability sitting in my hand to make a phone call that's going to make me $1 million, my fucking assistant is going to clean out my inbox. Right?
Yeah, sure.
That when I talk about effective, it's like the difference between a Toyota Prius is efficient, a Lamborghini is effective.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just on cars, right? If we talk, a bicycle can, anyways, that's a bicycle will use less fuel, but a jet engine will get you across the ocean, right? Like that's what I mean when I talk about efficient versus effective. So you guys have to really focus on your effectiveness and hiring people and getting the people below you as you expand. When you notice that your time is being taken up by things that aren't effective and they are holding you back from doing things that are effective, then it's time to look at how can you, hopefully you will have the financial wherewithal to be able to put someone in place to take care of those types of things, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you a really good example. There's a company called Gen M. So Gen M, what they do is they get a whole bunch of interns and assign them to companies. Okay?
All right.
So Gen M, for $50 a month, you pay $150 and you get yourself an intern for 3 months. So that intern can do things for 10 hours a week. They will work for you. And they will do things like, the one that I'm starting with this week is going to basically be taking on my Instagram and building my Instagram from 0 on up, right? I give them the strategies. I teach them how to do it. They do it, and then I basically give them feedback on how well they've done, right? It costs me $50 a month. I get 9 people signed up. I get them for free. So, that's an example of how you can, outsource certain aspects, because for me, it's not effective. Like, I charge $500 for these calls. The other guy that's doing them charges $750 for the calls, right? And we're looking to bring on people. My next goal is to bring on people who are going to be charging $1,500 to $5,000 for the calls, as well as some people that are going to be charging like $100 for the call, so that different people who need different leverage in different areas of their life can get it through a call like this.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my next set of goals, and that doesn't give me time to be responding to a post from The Rock on Instagram. Honestly, I don't give a fuck. I don't, right?
Yeah.
The brand itself is going to be doing that communication, and that brand voice. There's another really interesting book in terms of, like, if you're going to create a brand voice. It's called I'm Feeling Lucky, Confessions of Google Employee number 59, I think it is. And this guy was a newspaper reporter for a lot of years, and he got hired on as the communications manager for Google. So he, at the very beginning of Google, had to create Google's voice.
Yeah.
Because a brand has a voice. So it's just really interesting when you think that a brand has a voice. It's not necessarily the leader of that brand that has the voice. Right? That way you can outsource that voice to other people, and you can put parameters on it the same way you would in a brand Bible that says, our font can never be above 72 points. It's always going to be in doses bold. It's, these are our 6 colors on our palette, right?
Yeah.
The exact same thing can happen with your brand's voice in terms of, we want to be fun, we don't want to be offensive, we're not going to use racial terms, you come up with all of these rules that then give a feel to the words that are coming out of your brand's voice. So anyways, that was a little bit of a sidetrack, but
It's interesting.
Sometimes I read so much of this stuff, and I am around so much of it that I've been told talking to me is like taking a sip from a fire hose. And that's why it's good this is recorded, so that you guys can come back and you're going to be able to take notes on it, and you're going to be able to set up the activities that you're going to have to do to make sure that you're going to be able to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
That make sense?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. So where am I missing something? What's missing from this conversation right now?
No, you actually had some really valuable, tangible stuff that you can really start right now, like the idea from the, let's say, the branded rings to artists and stuff. It's something that we can do right now, so that's really good. That's some feedback that I can say, like, this is really helpful. Like, it's something that we can directly dive into. So that's really good. What's missing from this call?
No, I think if I had, having spoken with other people, I think they always try to guide me in my visions on the long term, but never really on the short term. Like, what you should do right here, right now, to get to the point where you have to start thinking about how your future plans will deploy themselves. And I think indeed with this idea, we have some direct actions that we can take today.
So it's really good that you have like a short-term thing for us to implement directly, and then have this but think about long-term as well, guys.
And they gradually change over time.
Yeah, well, I think that when you know where you want to be in 10 years, it's really easy to say no to something tomorrow. Right? That's what it comes down to, is like, if you know where you're going, then saying no to this and saying yes to that becomes a real simple decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, good. Well, I mean, hey,
perfect.
Sometimes we finish them early. This was a shorter one. This was sometimes we go an hour 10, hour 15, but usually we get them done in enough time that, So I enjoyed it. I look forward to it. I may reach out because I've got a blockchain plan of my own, but that's a little further into the future. But I'm sure we'll talk again. I mean, I'm on, Julian, did you add me on Facebook too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got you.
Cool. Awesome.
For the first time you asked feedback, but I told you then that I would look the other day to your project, but I didn't really have time then. So I'm sorry for that. So if you ever need some extra feedback right now, just reach out to me.
Well, look, I'm just thankful that you guys are doing this, because I know that the fact that you're willing to share this story with the world means that people that are in your spot and people that are on the same path are gonna be able to learn something from it. So I'm just thankful that you guys wanted to do this and make it public, and just much appreciated. I'm starting to load the first ones onto YouTube right now, starting to drop some teasers. I'm actually dropping a bunch of teasers today on Facebook and Instagram, and I think my Twitter's probably, I'm gonna just go wait a month on Twitter. But yeah, no, I really appreciate this, and it was a good time, man. So
yeah, definitely. Thanks for all the advice. We will make sure to implement them.
Excellent, and I will send you the link once the video's done, once it's uploaded.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Cool. Great.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck.
Talk to you later.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.